Greetings and salutations. It is I, Mr. Nothing, the museum curator of the weird and the strange, and the host who might be a ghost. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I focus on all manner of strange and unusual literature that I have found in my travels. So, I've just read a book that I want to talk about. It focuses on magic and exiled rulers. And it's also one of the first, classic plays that I'll be focusing on for this channel. I am talking about, of course, The Tempest by William Shakespeare. This one was suggested by Lucas over at Bits of Lit. I asked him for a suggestion because I wanted to do a Shakespeare play, one that I haven't read before, and he said, The Tempest, randomly, despite the fact that he hadn't read it himself, so I was in for quite a surprise there. Did I like it? No, I did not. That's the short answer. The long answer, I'll tell you why, and once I get through summarizing it and when I get to the analysis part, but I wasn't a big fan, and it might have just changed my opinion on Shakespeare. Let's get to that part. The Tempest focuses on Prospero, and he's on an island in the middle of nowhere, it seems. But it's a very magical island with spirits and goblins and all kinds of creatures. He's there because he was exiled years ago. There was a usurper to the throne, and he was kicked off and sent away to some random island, and so he's on the island with his daughter Miranda, and two of his slaves, actually. One of them is Ariel, who is a flighty spirit sort of thing. I don't really get what that's supposed to be. I guess just like a fairy of some sorts. And also Caliban, who is a savage, described as a savage, witch person, sorcerer. It's a bit vague. Shakespeare is not very helpful with this. Caliban is also Prospero's slave, which doesn't make sense. He was the son of Sycorax, a witch, so he's both an adversary to Prospero, but he's also not an adversary to Prospero. It sounded contradictory to me when I read it, and the descriptions online, don't make things any easier. So I'm glad. Guess I'm not alone there. So Prospero's on the island, and he basically has Ariel help him manipulate world events so that he can gain back his throne. And how he does this is that there's a ship out at sea, and that has his brother as well as Prince Ferdinand of Milan, I believe it is, and a bunch of people, Antonio and Alfonso. They're various usurpers to the throne, and they basically kicked Prospero out of where he was at. So Prospero makes it so Ariel just makes the ship utterly collapse, so once the ship collapses, once the ship falls into the water, he arranges it so that these people are transported to different parts of the island, so he can manipulate them into basically getting back his throne. Prince Ferdinand, for instance, Prospero introduces him to his daughter, and very interestingly, Prince Ferdinand is like, "Hey, I wouldn't mind boning your daughter." He says that. He doesn't say that directly, but he hints at it. So he's hoping to set Ferdinand up and gain his loyalty through that way. The other two of the people are sent to be with Caliban, who are sort of like really annoying, and they make his life more difficult than it needs to be. So Caliban tries to take Prospero down, but he's constantly foiled by these two idiots. And then it's either Alfonso or one of the other people. I'm sorry, the characters aren't very fun or easy to keep track of. But basically, his brother and the usurping kings try to track him down, but because Ariel manages to interfere, like, they aren't able to capture Prospero. And Prospero, makes life difficult for them, to the point where by the end of the play, Prospero basically has him at his whim. Like, he's able to successfully manipulate all of them into basically giving him back his throne. And once that happens, Ariel is free to go. He frees Ariel, who was a slave, and that's pretty much the entire play. Not a lot happens. It's very it's kind of a bland play. You just have Prospero running across the island trying to make sure, or even Ariel trying to make sure that none of these people can gain advantage on Prospero, and so he can gain his throne back, which he does. Overall, I would say I hated this play. Previously, I've read Macbeth and Hamlet and Othello and Romeo and Juliet. I'm kind of torn on Romeo and Juliet and Othello, which one is my favorite. I like Romeo and Juliet because of the how simple it is, and how it's just like how the violence and rivalry between the two families kills the children. Even, I guess, what some people might see as a noble feud is just meaningless in the end. And then Othello is great because it's just about pure jealousy and how that leads to people to do heinous actions. So, big fan of that. I didn't feel any of that when I read The Tempest. The big problem for me was it didn't feel like there was any peril. I know it's a tragic comedy. It's supposed to be funny more than anything else, but it didn't feel like there was any central conflict. Yes, Prospero wants his throne back, but because of Ariel, it just feels like there's nothing really stopping him. Caliban is made to seem like this big threat at the beginning, like Prospero admits that he doesn't like Caliban and that he's the son of an actual witch. And I thought Caliban was going to be a big deal, but it turns out Caliban was just tossed to the side. Didn't really become a factor throughout the whole thing. And maybe that's because Ariel interfered and stuck him with a couple of idiots, but I don't get it. It didn't really seem like there was a conflict there at every turn. Like, maybe that's because the hero was able to use his wits to get out of a sticky situation. But I never felt once that there was anything that Prospero had to fear, especially because, he had access to magic. So, yeah, I definitely wasn't a big fan of that. I don't have a lot else to say about this. There's just not. It just felt bare bones to me, and those stories can often be a lot of fun, but in this case, it's just meh, Based on, I would say don't go out and find this. Don't read it if you don't have to. In terms of reading more Shakespeare, if this is what Shakespeare has to offer, I don't want to see what else he has to offer. I've heard that like his historical dramas are really good, or that his other plays are pretty nice. But if I was going off just reading The Tempest, I wouldn't care much about Shakespeare anymore. One of the things people like to talk about is how important Shakespeare is to literature, and like how much of a foundation he's built. And I probably would have argued that Shakespeare was pretty important before reading this, but after reading this, I'm kind of done with Shakespeare. This was going to lead into a bunch more videos down the road and me looking at more Shakespeare, but I don't want to do that. that's kind of dumb. And so really the whole reason I even made this video was, I guess, to complain about Shakespeare, but also to make this on a Saturday, so that way when I can actually talk about something I want to talk about on Monday, when I usually make a video. So that's what's on that. That's the plan for this coming week. If you have a different opinion on the Tempest, yeah, feel free to share in the comments below. If you want to tell me why you think Shakespeare is important to the conversation, again, leave a comment below. I hope I didn't make anyone super angry by dissing Shakespeare. I know he has his defenders. Until then, I bid you a pleasant time in your weird travels. Have a good day.